Now, the second truth I want to lift out from the scripture comes from verse 26, and it has to do with shame. Jesus says, if you are ashamed of me and my words, I will be ashamed of you, or the Son of Man will be ashamed of you in front of the glory of God, basically. Now, why would we be ashamed of Jesus and his words? Well, again, remember who this book was written to. This book was written to a Gentile audience. And in a Gentile mind, a person claiming divinity or a god would not willingly give up his life for his creation. This was a foreign concept to Luke's audience in general. That basically that God, the divine, the creator, would give up his life for something lower than him. In the Greek mindset, in the Roman mindset, in the Gentile mindset, this was absurd. And so many converts would come to Christ because they loved his love and they liked his teachings, but then they would be a bit ashamed about how God orchestrated things in the Gentile family, at least, because gods don't die for their creation. That's absurd. That's a shameful thing in the Gentile mindset. Now, Luke wrote to the Gentiles, but Jesus was speaking to Jewish people at the time, to Hebrews by birth and Jewish by practice. Their mindset was such that the Messiah would not suffer. We had the suffering servant song in Isaiah, but surely that was a little bit mistaken. You know, the Messiah, the one that would come and deliver deliver God's people for him, was surely not one to suffer. It made the Jewish mind very uncomfortable that their deliverer would come, suffer, and die, be rejected, and die. This was out of the realm of possibility to the believers, even, that Jesus had surrounded himself with, his disciples. And so, when Jesus makes a point of this, I think it's important that we make a point of it as well. Do not be ashamed of the gospel. Do not be ashamed of what he has done and how he has done it. He has blown our minds by doing it in a way that we would have never have imagined. We never would have had it. We never could have imagined the way that he brought about his salvation. The fact is that God works unexpectedly. The cross is a stumbling block to many. Do not be ashamed of it. This is how God chose to work. And so, in order to see the church clearly, one of the things I see is a church that expects the unexpected from God. And again, if I may just speak to you in love for a moment. I see a church that expects good things, but not necessarily expects unexpected things. I see a church that loves one another and has a status quo, but really hasn't experienced, at least in recent years, probably in the past you have, the unexpected things that God is willing to do for you. And it's not anything about past leaders or anything like that. It's about where the church is in its life cycle. We have come to the point where we expect things just to continue to run and continue to run and continue to run and maintain the way that it always has, at least in recent memory. But I see a church, God sees a church, that steps out on faith and expects the unexpected. And I think that's where we're heading. I think that God's going to shake us up. You know what? He might have been shaking us up a little bit today. We walked in, and I don't know if you know this, but the computer wasn't there. Whoa, what do we do now? Well, we scrambled, and we got things together. And boy, I tell you what, the media department shined this morning. Because how do you come and put on a media presentation and worship without a computer? And so they ran and they did everything. But you know what? God has a purpose for everything. And he might be about to bless us unexpectedly in a way that we could never ask for or even imagine. I see a church that expects the unexpected.